Good afternoon, friends. We're very happy that all of you are here to welcome Professor Kevin Hall and Professor Ajay and Vinu from the University of Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, to give Mangalore University a global image and to project the achievements of research and education here at Mangalore University on a global scale. The presence of international students here on our campus is also an index of this kind of effort at internationalizing education on our campus. Friends, it is with pleasure that I recognize the presence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor here on the dais, Professor K. Bhairappa, as well as our Registrar, Professor B.S. Nagendra Prakash. We also have here people who have worked very hard to make this event possible. This will be of a semi-formal nature involving some kind of a presentation and also an emphasis upon interaction. So you're all invited to participate with the characteristic enthusiasm that you have always shown. At the outset, may I request our Registrar, Professor B.S. Nagendra Prakash, to say a few words of welcome.
At the outset, after a sumptuous meal, a warm welcome to all of us, one and all. I take this opportunity that it's a privilege on my behalf to be a part of this landmark day in the history of Mangalore University for the MOU's signing ceremony and the interactive session. On the occasion, I welcome the focal point for today, Professor Kevin Hall from University of Newcastle, Australia, and Professor Ajay and Vinu, also from Newcastle, Australia. I welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Bhairappa, whose brainchild is this MOU and the interactive session. I call upon to give a big hand for him towards this. I'm sure you agree that this is going to be a new vista in the history of annals of Mangalore University to make it global. I welcome you, sir. Professor Kevin, Senior Vice President representing the University of Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. I welcome you, sir, to this gathering. We have with us another catalyst into all this process in Professor Ajay and Vinu, who has been instrumental in making this chemistry work faster between Mangalore University and Newcastle Wales. I welcome you, Professor Vinu. I welcome my esteemed colleagues from various departments, heads of the departments, and my research scholars, and my student friends, and media. Welcome one and all. Thank you.
I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to offer a floral welcome to Professor Kevin Hall. Our registrar, Professor B.S. Nagendra Prakash, will welcome Professor Ajay Vinod. The Dean of Science, Professor Ishwar Bhatt, is here. May I request you to present a floral bouquet to our Honorable Vice Chancellor. We have with us Professor Kishori Naik, Director, formerly Director of the Women's Studies Center, the founding Director, Professor of English and Dean of the Faculty of Arts. Could you please present a floral bouquet to our Registrar, Professor B.S. Nagendra Prakash. Now that the flowers exude their own fragrance of welcome to Mangalore, saying that our international friends from Australia are most welcome here, and we do hope they're feeling at home. And we do look forward to a very sustained relationship between the two universities that our Honorable Vice Chancellor has made possible. They have just signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding for a period of 5 years. This is indeed a path-breaking day, a great day for Mangalore University. Though it starts on a low-key note, it is perhaps befitting that such important academic events start off on a low key, so that the spirit behind the agreement can be sustained on a long-term basis. The MOU covers a wide range of areas, interdisciplinary in its spirit, which is indeed the global trend. And we are most fortunate that this global trend is represented here by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Bhairappa, who represents interdisciplinarity. Our registrar also mentioned this earlier when the MOUs were signed in the Vice Chancellor's office. And it is that broad gamut that makes possible research collaborations across a wide spectrum in all areas. And this is something that's very wonderful about this MOU. It is not merely for one area, but a broad spectrum of areas ranging from life sciences to biomedics to biotechnology to social sciences to women's studies and sociology and political science and English literature. So it's a very broad conception that the agreement places before the faculty and students of Mangalore University. And as the Vice Chancellor said so rightly at the MOU ceremony, this has become possible, but to take it forward is something that all of us have to do by addressing the concerns of the MOU and getting into the nitty-gritties of those MOUs, establishing contacts, and then carrying forward this thrust that has begun today. So this is the scenario that is opening out for us. It is indeed a momentous occasion, a great day, a red-letter day. And we have with us to share their views from across the continents. When we speak of international students, we speak of smiles across the miles. And I guess this is also one more step in those smiles across the miles. And we have with us Professor Kevin Hall and Professor Ajay Vinod, who made it all the way to be with us. Even though they have a very busy schedule, they have found time to come here, and we do hope you've liked what you've seen. And Mangalore University holds the possibilities of a great partnership with the University of Newcastle. With these preliminary words, may I request Professor Kevin Hall to say a few words on this occasion. Professor Ajay may also like to join in after that, and then we will have an interaction where you can ask questions, and after that we would have the presidential address, and then it would be time for all of us to have an international cup of tea. And the fare is local, of course. The fare is local, but the spirit is international. Professor Hall, may we look forward to listening to you.
Because he made this visit for us possible today, and the hospitality you've shown is absolutely outstanding. So thanks for that. I would like to say that, you know, why we seem like we're very important up here on the stage. Of course, in India, Vice Chancellor is very important. But in Australia, they don't really care too much. Why it is important when we sign our amendment, all of you in the room, that will actually make this happen. Because if you don't want to, as either faculty members or as students, if you don't want to get together with your cousins in Australia, then this really won't work. Because we can plan all the things we want to plan, but it's really your desire to integrate and to collaborate and to be multidisciplinary with your colleagues in Australia. And your Australian counterparts will be very friendly. Australians are very friendly. And you talk about smiles across the miles. We have lots of smiles. Boy, and do we ever have a lot of miles. We're a long way from here. For Australians, it's actually interesting coming to India. It's only like 12 hours or 14 hours on a plane. That seems like going into the local city on a bus, because when we go to like the UK or to Canada, where I'm from originally, it's 24 or 26 hours. So we actually enjoy coming to India. Myself, I'm the senior. I'm called the Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation. I've been at the University of Newcastle for 5 years. I've lived in Australia for a while. I used to be a professor at University of New South Wales, and I'm a civil engineer by training, which makes me really good, because civil engineering is the best. I asked my colleague, no, seriously. I'm now an administrator, and I really enjoy what I do, which is making partnerships for the university globally. And I really believe that together, if we all put our minds together around this world, we're going to make this world a much, much better place to live, and that's for all of us to do. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about Newcastle. I won't talk too long because I want to have this interactive session. But Newcastle is the 6th biggest city in Australia. Population 250,000. The region itself is around 1 million people, but we're one of the most productive regions economically in the country. We have a lot of industry. We have everything from the mining industry to some of the best wine industry in Australia. So Newcastle is a very sort of area that wants to drive the economy. But the other thing interesting about Newcastle is we have a very large indigenous population. So in Australia, the people who first inhabited the lands, the Aboriginal indigenous population, have not been treated very well by first the British and then the Australians. And so it's important for us as an institution to make sure that we can try to help solve the problems around equity in education. And I know that's at the roots of what you're trying to do at Mangalore University. And I think that's really important, because that creates a good bond for us to work together, because we share the same basic ethos around helping people. And so all of our work that we do, whether it's in science or in medicine, or it's in social studies or sociology, or it's in gender studies, is all about trying to be excellent in what we do, but also trying to create equity. The university itself, we have 40,000 students at the University of Newcastle, which in Australia makes us a medium-sized university. The biggest universities are around 100,000 students. And of that, we have around 20% international students. So we have about 8,000 students full-time on our campuses. We have a campus in Newcastle, where our main campus is. We also have one in Singapore, and we have a campus in Sydney. And we have a couple of small rural campuses that help the smaller, remote Australian public get education. But 20% of our students are international, of which, out of the 8,000, we have about, maybe only 100 students from India on campus. So it's not a very popular destination at this point in time for students. And that's mostly at the undergraduate level. If you look at the PhD level, the research level, then all of a sudden that dynamic changes. And we probably have 10% of our students at the University of Newcastle are from India, taking engineering and medicine and all the other topics that we give. Our university itself is ranked number, I think, 9 last year in the country in terms of overall income for research, but we're ranked number 1 in engineering and number 3 in medicine. And so we're very proud of that because we're not the biggest university. We have 1,500 academics, professors, researchers, whereas universities like Sydney have 5,000 or 6,000. So of course they do much more activity. So one of the things that separates Newcastle is we're very multidisciplinary. So everything we try to do in research is to collide people together. So we want engineers to be working with nurses, who are working with sociologists, who are working with the humanities. And so all of our projects, we try to create some kind of multidisciplinary bond. And I think that's something that we would love to be able to explore further with Mangalore University, and how can we work across your faculties and schools and departments to also solve, some really good challenges. Somebody asked me just a little while ago, why are we signing an MOU? And I think I said, the reality is we want to do two things. We want to help our universities be at the forefront of changing the economy, for example, for India and for Australia. We want our countries to be wealthy so we can take care of people, and so that means we've got to do a lot of good science and engineering and try to drive industry. But the bigger piece is we want to make life different for everybody. So we want to make some social change. And so what we do research for at universities is to have that impact on the people in our countries. And I think, we share those similarities. So we hope that this relationship between Newcastle and Mangalore will really put good minds together from both countries, from across the ocean. Put those minds together, because two minds working together with different perspectives often really solve the problems. And so that's true whether you're an undergraduate student. Is anybody an undergraduate student here? Yeah? If you're an undergraduate student, or is anybody a PhD student? So, okay, is anybody an academic, professor? So I thought maybe old students were sitting down in the front, but no, they're professors. So, for all of us, it's important that we work together and solve those problems. The international experience for our students is very important. Australia, again, is a long way away in the world from a lot of people, and that means Australians can sometimes be isolated in their views and their thinking. So we as an institution want to send our students out to get some good experiences around the globe, and so this MOU will allow us to do that. It'll allow us to send some of our students, both undergraduates and graduates, to India to have an experience, to gain knowledge, but to have, more importantly, to gain a different perspective on the world. So that's important for us. The other thing that we do at Newcastle, I think that's very unique in Australia, is we're heavily involved in innovation and entrepreneurship. So we have integrated into our community, we have a series of what we call innovation hubs. So there's 5 physical innovation hubs throughout our Hunter region where we live. And our Hunter region is about 500 kilometers by 500 kilometers. Australia is very big, but less than 1 million people in 2,500 square kilometers, right? So it's very sparsely populated. But what we do with our innovation hubs is we give the public, the citizens in the community, a chance to come and work with our researchers, to look at the technology that's developed, to look at the literature or the art that's developed, and then to try to get some ideas around how can we either create a startup company and make money, or how can we start an NGO and solve some problems. And so innovation is at the core of what the and we hope that we can share experiences in innovation. We hope we can share what we've done in Newcastle with you in Mangalore, and see how you can make changes as well, or see how you've made changes in your community, how you've helped professors or students have startups. And I can tell you, at our university, we have one professor who started a company that was looking at using viruses and bombarding cancer cells to kill cancer viruses, which has been very successful. And he has a company now that's listed on the stock exchange for $400 million. We have 2 third-year students who have a company that's listed on the stock exchange now for $20 million. They had a really good idea when they were in 3rd year, and we helped connect them into people who had some what's called venture capital, which you can invest in the company. They're now in California having the time of their lives as 20-year-olds, making very significant amounts of money. And I think we all have that possibility, whether it's Australia, India. The world is a small place now. It's a global, we are in a global place, and I think this partnership, this MOU that we signed today, can help drive some activity in that. So I think at that point in time, I'm going to let Professor Venu have some words, because I've probably spoken too much. But I will also say, I'm not a stranger to India. I've been here at least 50 times. I've been working here for 30 years in Chennai, And I also told my colleagues at the table, saying I'm married to an Indian woman, so I don't mind spicy food. Everybody looks at me and goes, you're this white guy, you can't eat spicy food. But no, I do. I really enjoy India. I love the culture, and our universities, I think, will work very, very well together. But again, it's up to you sitting out there to make this work. We'll set up the framework. We might even provide a little bit of money to help some of these things happen, because that's what we do as a vice chancellor or a vice president. And but it's really up to you, and we hope you'll all go online, look at the University of Newcastle. We'll encourage our students to go online, look at Mangalore University, and if you have any ideas of who you might want to work with, who you might want to study with, who you might want to visit, just bring it up the chain, and we'll be able to make those decisions as where we can make some investment. So I hope you all really take this MOU seriously and really make it happen. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Listening to Professor Hall.
Ravi Shankar,
Yes.
probably you know why smiles are more and why the miles are very less.
Very nicely put. The smiles are more and the miles are less. And we are speaking of Indian connections, which travel across the board in many substantial ways. It was very nice to know the Indian connections of Professor Hall, and those are substantially compounded today with this MOU that we have just signed between the two universities. Professor Ajayan Vinu, we are looking forward to listening to you. He heads the Innovation Center, the Global Innovation Center at the University of Newcastle. He's the director of that center, and we look forward to listening to a few ideas that we can capitalize upon. As Professor Hall said, even undergraduate students are making $20 million. So that's a good dream to keep going.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't want to take too much time. Professor Hall already covered everything about the University of Newcastle. But anyway, before talking, I would like to thank Professor Bhairappa for helping us to sign a MOU between Mangalore University and the University of Newcastle. So Professor Bhairappa, I know him, since 2000, and we have been collaborating and published a lot of papers together, and we attended many conferences together, and we discussed so many things, and we have been collaborating on a different topic, mainly on the materials. So today I'm going to talk about how we can collaborate in the field of the material science. In the University of Newcastle, so I am heading the Global Innovative Center for Advanced Nanomaterial. The main motto is save the world and help the people. And how we are doing it. Save the world. But you know that multi-billion industries are damaging the environment by releasing the CO2s into the atmosphere. So that is causing the global warming, and how to mitigate the global warming. So this is what we are doing at the Global Innovative Center for Advanced Nanomaterial. So we are developing the technology that can selectively capture the CO2 molecule that will ultimately help to get rid of the CO2 from the atmosphere, right? So if somebody wants to join on this, the noble, work, or to solve this problem, and please come and join with us at the Global Innovative Center for Advanced Nanomaterial. And the next one is help the people. How we are doing it? But many people, millions of people are being lost. Every year because of the cancer, right? So in our center, we are designing new drug formulations to target this cancer, or to find a solution for different kinds of cancers, like prostate cancer, lung cancer, right? And cervical cancers, and liver cancers, and so on. The technology that we are developing is quite unique. So normally people are giving a kind of chemo drugs, right? So what we have been doing is that use the advanced nanostructures and then and put some chemo and immuno drug inside the nanostructures and release them slowly and target those kind of particular cancer cells. So that will give a kind of huge impact, and then support the people. So this is another thing. And also we are developing a kind of low cost and high efficiency energy storage and conversion devices. For example, batteries and the supercapacitors with this nanomaterial. Right? So we are working with physicists, chemists, and biologists, right, to design advanced nanostructures for the betterment of the society and also to help the world. And if somebody wants to join on this noble thing, and please just write to me, and we can work together, because I alone cannot just solve the problem. Right? I may be expert in material chemistry, but we need to have the expertise of theoretical chemistry, biological chemistry, and physics, and of course organic chemistry. But we all should work together to find a solution for all these problems that I have mentioned. So this MOU will help us to work together to solve the problem, and that are being faced by the people and the society, right? So I also like to tell you some of the objectives of this symposium. This MOU. This MOU will help us to enhance the interaction between the researchers in Mangalore University and the Newcastle University. So you can visit us and stay there for 3 months to 1 year, and we can identify a kind of common problem, and we can work together to find a solution. Right? So this is one thing, and also this will help us to organize a joint symposium, and this will also help us to find out the expertise in different universities. I mean, Mangalore University and the Newcastle University. And that will also provide us the understanding of where we can just put our hands together to tackle these kind of problems. And another thing is that we can even write a joint projects, to tackle this problem the world is facing. It's mainly the CO2 emission and the drug delivery. I mean, for example, the health issues. Right? So these kind of problems can be solved, and if you just work together. So, and with this, I would like to conclude my address, and I hope that Professor Bhairappa and Professor Kevin will help us to, realize our dream of working together to solve the world problems. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Kevin Hall and Professor Ajay and Binu. We understand it's not just smiles across the miles, it's also synergy across the miles. And that's a good note to start an interaction. So the floor is open, and you're welcome to raise any kind of questions. We have a broad range of people here in this gathering today, from faculty to researchers, PhD students, to master's students, to undergraduate students as well. So it's the entire spectrum. Any of you is welcome to ask a question, and if you wish to ask a question in Kannada, you can also do that. I'll translate it into English. So please feel free.
Speeches, and of course, I'm Karimi from Afghanistan, and we PhD in Commerce Department from the University. I have a question which is two-part. You mentioned innovation and entrepreneurship. In India, there are legal frameworks that help rural areas, villages. What are the legal frameworks you have in Australia, this is your university, for entrepreneurship and of course rural development for empowering the economy? The second question, how do you choose Mangalore University? A lot of universities. What exactly attracted you to Mangalore University?
Okay. Talk about poverty and entrepreneurship and innovation? Or?
I mean, what are the legal frameworks? For example, in India, there are panchayat, self-help groups, engineering, they have root city.
Yeah.
What are the
It's interesting. Okay, that's a good question. So innovation in Australia and entrepreneurship is really for anybody to do. And both the federal government, Australia has federal government for the whole country, but also a state government. And all of the states are in a competition. Who can become the most entrepreneurial? Who can have the most innovation? Because it is about changing the economy of Australia. Right now we dig things out of the ground. We're very lucky in Australia that we have an abundance of minerals of all different types. And Australia has the record of being the only country in the world that has had 29 years of successive growth in its gross domestic product. Because minerals are always going to be important, but Australia has realized that it needs to be driving a knowledge-based economy. So it now, both at the federal and the state level, which are really the only two governing bodies, put a lot of money into driving innovation. Newcastle is unique in that we've been ahead of the curve in Australia, and we've felt that it's been very important for our region to drive innovation. But we don't have as many types of government, I think, in Australia as you do in India, so that may stifle somewhat innovation. But I do know, if you go to Mumbai, for example, where I do quite a bit of work with some colleagues, innovation is very active. The culture around innovation and entrepreneurship is very active. There's startup hubs all across the city. The universities are getting involved, and a good culture of innovation and entrepreneurship needs a good university to drive it. And so Mangalore University probably is or could be, the driver of innovation and entrepreneurship in this region. So I'm really not familiar with what you do. The second question is, that's an easy one to answer. Why Mangalore University? We just chose the best. We were helped in that direction, mind you, by the fact that Professor Venu and your Vice Chancellor have been colleagues who have worked together over the years. And so certainly Professor Venu said to me, we really have to go to Mangalore because the Vice Chancellor there is doing some really wonderful work. And then of course we looked and had a look at the type of work that's going on. And what I liked about Mangalore and what I've liked about my visit today is I really do think we share the same sort of ethics or ethos. The roots of our university are about helping people, whether it's economically, socially, environmentally. We want to make a difference in the, first of all, where we live, but we want to make a difference across the globe, and I think we share that, and that makes for a really good partnership.
Being a chemistry man, I want to propose one or two points here. One is about, as we proposed, it is related to the conservation of our environment or decrease in the problem-related environment. So can you think of going for make use of the theory of semiconductors in converting that carbon dioxide which is leading to the global warming into require organic compounds which badly needed for each and every person as well as industry. That is the one. We can think of going for collaboration in this particular field. The second field is about energy conservation. So in this regard, long back people stated that it is possible making use of hydrogen as the best storer. But later on, because of some problem, people thought of going for hydrates of some alkaline organic metals. Later it was changed to some oxides of this and inorganic elements. So in this regard, also we can think of going for collaborative work. So these are two fields that I want to propose.
Okay.
Thank you.
So those are two excellent suggestions. I'm going to turn over to Professor Venu in a second because he's the technical guy. He can talk about oxides and peroxides and whatever oxides. But I will say two things for the University of Newcastle, why it would make a good partner with you on those things is, first of all, we have a very big cluster that looks at environment. We host a cooperative research center in Australia. Those are very prestigious to get. That's 10 universities working together with 50 industry partners to solve problems around environmental contamination and remediation. We have a very large environmental life science group, and we have a very large group that looks at the environment and the impacts on health through our School of Medicine. So we have a good platform for that. The second piece around energy, we also have the largest energy cluster in Australia, which again is co-located with industry at what's called the Newcastle Institute for Energy and Resources. And we're looking at all different types of energy, from conservation to regeneration, to many of these things you've talked about. But I think, Venu, I'm sure you have something to say about oxides and CO2 and all this crazy stuff that I don't understand because I'm a civil engineer.
I think it's a very nice question. So you were asking about suggestion for the collaboration. And this is one of the topics we have been actively working this closely with advanced nanomaterial. You suggested that capture of the CO2 and its conversion to value-added product. To do that, you need to have the expertise of chemistry people and also physicists and theoretical chemists. And why? CO2, of course, is slightly acidic. I mean, you need to have a material with the basic characteristics, right? So you can absorb the CO2, but what you are going to do with the CO2? You need to convert it. But you can convert it by thermal catalytic process or the advanced oxidation or the photocatalytic process. But when you talk about the thermal catalytic process or oxidation catalytic process, but then you need to have a special chemicals to convert it. But again, you are polluting the environment. We don't want to have that. But the best unique way is that to use the sunlight and water.
Yes.
So the sunlight, of course, is a free energy, and you don't have to worry about anything. And water as an electron source. And for that, we need to have a semiconductor.
Yeah.
The semiconductor can help you to split the water into proton and electron. Now, of course, you need energy that is from the sun. And that electron can be used to convert the CO2 into value-added product, that is a methanol, or it's a clean fuel. So for that, what we need to have expertise of analysis people and materials. Because if you don't have the expertise, you can't design a material that has the characteristics of density and semiconducting characteristics. So that material was discovered in our lab. It's the last time I gave a lecture in this room, right? The carbon-nitride has a unique characteristics, the basic property as well as the semiconducting property. That has a kind of magic, the potential to capture and convert the CO2 into value-added product. So of course we can collaborate in the theoretical sectors. We can design a material, we can convert it. The key is to tune the band gap of that material. And you have to theoretically understand the band structure of the material. And if you have a different band gap, you will get a different product. Sometimes carbon monoxide or formic acid, formaldehyde, but you need to have a methanol, it's a clean fuel. Right? So theoretical we are happy to collaborate on that topic. The second one is the hydrogen. Hydrogen can be produced from different sources. Dehydrogenation of aromatics or the splitting of water. Then again, a photocatalytic water splitting. So in this case also, we need to have a material that has ability to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. But the thing is that you will produce hydrogen and oxygen. You need to have high efficiency towards the hydrogen. How we can do that? And of course, to design a system. No, absolutely. That's what I'm coming. So we have to design a system with a high conduction bandage. But of course, we need to have the expertise in theoretical chemistry people to design a system. But of course, storage, you can convert that hydrogen into value-added product and then storage system, of course, with a high surface area material. But we are very happy to collaborate on the topic, to do this one. Yes. Yeah.
Sir, I would like to know about the fellowship and travel grant for undergraduate level, PG level, for PhD and postdoctoral fellowship.
That's all covered in the MOU. That I can tell. Okay.
Thank you.
This I can answer later. Okay. All this has been covered in our MOU from both sides. Both the universities have agreed to meet the travel expenditure. The local hospitality will be covered by the host institution.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Kevin Hall. Not many universities have gender equity as their top priority. A specific question is that what are some of the, let's say, policy measures that the University of New South Wales
Newcastle.
has taken?
Newcastle.
New South
But
Wales
you are in Mysore University. That's what the confusion.
has taken for bringing in gender equity into your university?
That's a very good question. So what we have very depends on which part of the university you're looking at, whether it's undergraduate to student recruitment and placement, or it's faculty members. I'm not sure what you want to talk about, but
Just talking about the general university policy.
yeah. So the policies. Let me take the academic environment first. The policies are very much about providing opportunities for women when they're on pregnancy leave, for example. We give them an additional stipend so that they can either pay for childcare, or in some cases what they want to do is actually pay for things like a postdoc to help their work keep going while they're off for 6 to 12 months. We have some very specific programs around funding. So we have Women in Research Fellowships. We give out 40 of those a year to women. The men are very upset that we do it because it's for the women. We have a network of mentoring for women, and we actually, our academic profile is not great, but what it is that we call it level C, which is an assistant professor. We're at about 60% female, 40% male. At level D, which is an associate professor, we're about 60% male and 40% women. And at level E, which is a full professor, we're 80% male and 20% women. So there is definitely an issue around the progression of females through the ranks. And so we're working very hard with both on the side of the women, trying to give mentoring and coaching around how to get your CV in a format to get past the promotions committee. But we're working very hard on the other side of the fence with males, trying to have them understand every career is not the same, and you wouldn't think that for a man. You have to look at all the variations that go into a career. So we're trying to de-genderify the promotion and tenure process at the institution. I hope that helps a little bit. And I can talk offline with you, because I realize there's other questions. I can talk about tons of things. You can come and visit us at Newcastle and see what we're doing. And are we perfect? Absolutely not. But we're sure trying to correct the equity. And the last thing I just would say, it's not just gender equity we're interested in. We're also interested in equity, period. We want students that come from a very low income background to be able to go to university and have a quality education experience. And we want people of different race and ethnicity to feel like they're welcomed at the university. So it's equity across many streams.
I just would like to ask one question. You're working on the children's discourse from Malaysia. Do you have, I hope you're not limited to only the global warming and all these things. But Will told me that we are also working on the preservative issue. And we are working on malaria. If anybody is working on this issue, you have to university. And I'd love to collaborate with them. Because we already have the academic collaboration. And I worked for some time at James University of Australia. I was working in James University.
James Cook.
Yeah.
Queensland.
Yeah, Queensland. If you know anybody is working in Newcastle, anybody is working scientist only, but this could particularly tropical disease.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Tropical medicine in Australia is a very big piece, whether it's Newcastle or many other universities, because we are in the tropics, and we also share a number of significant issues around disease and disease burden and disease vectors. We do have people working on malaria. I'm happy to put you in contact with them. They typically, we have some fairly strong partnerships in Africa. We're working with quite a few African countries. We focus a lot on East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, and we're doing some work with the University of Dar es Salaam and Muhimbili Hospital in Tanzania around two aspects of malaria. One is prevention, which is equally as important as cure, because cure seems to be a long way off. It's taken the world, we've been working on malaria for, 80 years, don't have a solution. So prevention is also a significant piece. So we do, through our allied health and public health people, work on prevention. And then our scientists in immunology and biomedicine have been working with other people around the world on looking at trying to get a prevention or a cure for malaria. But certainly you would find some colleagues at Newcastle to work with. Snakes that are poisonous. We have poisonous spiders, and if you go swimming in the ocean, there's big sharks. It's a great place to come. No questions?
The people who want to see who want to experience the beauty, then you must visit Australia. It's like a heaven. When you visit Nelson Bay or Shoal Bay, and you will feel like you are in a heaven. That much beautiful. Yeah, and Newcastle is one of the most beautiful cities. If somebody wants to enjoy or experience the beauty of the air, come and join us.
Now somebody said coral reefs, so that's a really good thing for us to work on, because like 80% of the world's coral reefs are having significant damage because we as humans have really made a mess of this planet. And so we do have a group of marine scientists who are looking at how can we try to reestablish coral reefs. And of course we have environmental people trying to reduce CO2 emissions, like Professor Vinu, because there's another area where we could work together. We could say, look, let's look at, because coral reefs in India aren't very good either. There's a good focus that would be really good.
Any other interventions that you would like to make? You can still do that in a couple of minutes. Before we go on, I'd also like to suggest myself that
lab visit.
maybe we should also explore
You have lab
trade contacts.
A couple of labs.
Also mentioning that trade contacts between Australia and India, the kind of climate change. So let's hope that the future is bright and beautiful, and I'm sure the quality of the discussion today shows much promise, and we can definitely take the ball forward. The ball has been set rolling. It's only necessary for us to take it forward. It's now time for us to listen to the person who has made this possible, our Honorable Vice Chancellor. You know him very well, so I don't have to introduce him all over again. But the most important thing is that he is an interdisciplinary from his Moscow State University days, where he did doctorate and his postdoc.
It's okay, all of them know about me now. They are getting late, colleagues, dear students and media persons. Well, we have been working for the last few days on this important meeting to sign a MOU with a very important fast growing university in Australia, University of Newcastle, the senior deputy vice chancellor of the University of Newcastle, and also a good friend of mine for the last 2 decades, Professor Ajay Vinu. They are here. They have signed this morning, forenoon, the MOU covering various aspects of research of interdisciplinary nature, covering humanities, social science, the language departments, and the science streams all together. And it covers the exchange of faculties, the exchange of students, research students in particular. Even the dissertation students can opt for it. If you find a good, a professor who can accept you to carry out your dissertation work in that university, and if this happens at the student level itself, that's a big change for the higher education system in India in the current globalized world. So as Professor Ajay Vinu mentioned, we can have the joint conferences, symposium organized, and we can have the joint project proposals submitted to various funding agencies, both national and international agencies, and coming out with the joint publications and patents And this morning when they were signing the MOU, we were discussing about our potential, our capabilities in Mangalore University, like the areas of radiation physics, chemical sciences, material science, life science. We are going to start shortly medical physics, and this university is going to be the third in India to start this medical physics. I have been working for this for the last 2 years, and now the commission to regulate the nuclear science in India has given the green signal to go ahead with the starting up of this medicinal physics. And also we are very good in cell biology. We have got very good professors here in life science that can do very good work. And my major concern was also to bring the social science departments on par with the science faculties, because social science is very interesting for research, particularly from an angle of gender equity, sensitization, socio-economic changes, discrimination. All these things we can study from a new perspective that needs a collaborative, a collective approach to understand. That is why about 3 years ago I moved a resolution here in the university that any proposal coming, a joint proposal from the humanities department with the science department for research, the university is ready to give a seed money of rupees 5 lakhs to start with, and if they progress well, we can further support. So now our professors have understood how the interdisciplinary research is making waves worldwide, globally. India is known as a knowledge superpower, and we have the brain, and now we need to put this into practice, into applications, and we need to collaborate with the big universities from overseas. Then we can serve the humanity on the whole through these collective approaches. And this MOU is not just restricted to faculties alone, and we cover the subjects in science like physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, bioscience, biotechnology, environmental science, material science. In humanities, we have covered English literature, women's studies, sociology, political science, economics, and folklore. So with these subjects, if anything comes in future for a collaborative research, both the sides would agree to support and move forward in that direction. I am sure that this MOU would be useful to both the universities, and it has come into effect from today, kindly go through the website of University of Newcastle and find out the professors carrying out research in your respective areas and correspond with them, contact and get a consent for collaborative research. Then the universities will take over from you and we fix you with the host, with your counterpart in Australia, and the same thing they can fix that professor with our Mangalore University. So that is how the administration can help facilitate the researchers and students in this MOU. And I would like to thank Professor Kevin Hall and Professor Ajay Vinu for both of them, in spite of their busy schedule, they came here to sign this MOU to take Mangalore University forward. And now, as all of you know, the university is doing well in research. In the last 3.5 years, our H-index doubled, and also in the ranking, Green Metric ranking, world ranking, in India we stand number 3 and in the world 231st in the world ranking. So I am sure with this we will progress well for the betterment of the humanity and for the service to the society. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
It's now time to
Chair. I have just only 2 things to ask you. Just while you were having a lunch, one of the faculty members was asking me what could be the perspectives in terms of sports between the 2 universities. Probably we have one area, yogic science is one, and diet and food and nutrition is another one. Probably things could be explored even in that, because Australia is known for a scientific approach to the sports activity. Probably we have made better inroads even in that area. I think probably that could be taken. Another one, as already Mr. Kevin has already led the way, and he has shown by example that he has found smiling India to be better in choosing his partner. Probably the universities do not have any inhibition if you find better partners or you are a partner. That is also welcome, but it is unwritten.
pause for a vote of thanks, formal thanks before we adjourn for tea. We'll allow our guests of honor to have tea first because they have a flight to catch immediately after this program. In the meantime, I request Professor Jayaraj Amin, our Director of College Development Council and Professor of Political Science, to do the vote of thanks.
Members on the dais, my friends. It's my honor to propose vote of thanks. We have come to the end of the program. Since morning, we are all busy with the formalities associated with the MOUs. And the MOU has been signed and it has been exchanged by the administrative heads of the 2 universities, who incidentally happen to be also the civil engineers. So I'm sure that the foundations of MOU is very strong because it has been done by finally exchanged by the civil engineers. I'm sure that this would actually take off, and we would like to have many exchange programs and joint activities, joint research, and other things would take shape in the years to come. All these things have been actually worked out with the active support of our Vice Chancellor, and to materialize this program, we have also had with us Professor Kevin Hall and Professor Ajay Vinu. On behalf of Mangalore University and also on behalf of all those who have gathered here, I extend my thanks to Professor Kevin Hall and also Professor Ajay Vinu for being with us and spending their valuable time with us. Thank you, sir. I also thank our own beloved Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Nairappa, for taking so much of initiative to see that this university is exposed to the outside world and interact on a greater scale in the days to come. Sir, on behalf of all those who are gathered here, I extend a very warm thanks to you, sir. I also thank the registrar of our university, Professor Nagendra Prakash, for being with us and spending his valuable time with us. I also thank all those who are gathered here to witness this great moment. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Jairaj, for that vote of thanks. It's time for some more engineering now. That's culinary engineering, so that we have a cup of tea. So please, everyone is invited. All of you, please do join. But we'll